Hey guys, today we're going to talk about rates and unit rates.
All right, well, first let's review. What is a rate?
Well, a rate is a ratio that compares two things that are different. So, for example, time and distance.
All right, or money and a number of objects.
Yeah, and a unit rate is just a rate that has a 1 for its second number.
All right, well, that sounds good. Let's look at some examples.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's find the rate and unit rate for 6 drinks that cost $4.26.
Okay, well, first thing I need to do is write my categories. This is talking about money and drinks. So it tells me that my rate is $4.26 for 6 drinks. And what I want to find is how much does it cost for 1 drink. So in order to do this, I need to find out how to turn a 6 into a 1, which would be dividing by 6. And I would divide $4.26 by 6, which gives me 0.71 or 71 cents for 1 drink.
All right, so let's look at another example and let's use a different method to solve this one. Find the rate for 75 ounces of candy that cost $8.25.
All right, well, my first step is still to write out my categories. I have money, and money almost always goes on top. And I have ounces. Now I'm going to set this one up like a proportion. So my money is $8.25, and my ounces is 75. And I can set that equal to an unknown number over 1.
Okay, so 75 divided by 75. So if we divide both numbers by 75, that should give us our unit rate.
Okay, and that's going to give me 0.11, which means that it is 11 cents per ounce of candy.
Okay, so we're going to do 2 more examples, only this time we're going to let you have the opportunity to solve this problem before we do it for you. So when we say pause, solve these problems on your own, and when you're ready, press play. All right, our next example. 3 gallons of milk for $9.51. So find the unit rate and the rate for this problem. All right, press pause.
Okay, well, once again, my very first step is going to be to figure out what my categories are. I have dollars and I have gallons. The rate that it gives me, I'll go back to a table here, is going to be $9.51 for 3 gallons. And I want to find out how much for 1 gallon. So I'm going to divide both the bottom and the top by 3. And when I do that, I get 3.17, which means it costs $3.17 per gallon.
Let's look at our final example. Write a rate and the unit rate for 7 tickets that cost $66.78. All right, pause your video.
Once again, let's look at what our categories are. We have money and we have tickets. It says that we paid $66.78 for 7 tickets, and I want to know how much do I pay for 1 ticket. So I'm going to have to divide both the top and the bottom by 7. And when I do that, I'm going to get 9.54, which means that it's $9.54 per ticket.
All right, so our next thing that we're going to do is to compare rates.
Okay, well, how are we going to compare rates? The first thing that we need to do is to find something that's similar. You can't compare 2 things unless you have something similar. Let's look at our first example.
All right, so we have an example that has 4 ounces of just a snack-sized Pringles for 90 cents, or 15 ounces for $3.25. So as of right now, we can't compare the size because they have different sizes, and we can't compare the price because the prices are different. So I really can't say that one is a better deal than the other one. So we need to have something that's in common. So how do we do that?
Well, what we're going to do in order to figure this out is actually find the unit rate of both of these items. So we're not comparing rates, we're comparing unit rates.
Nice. Okay, so the rate for the snack size would be 90 cents per 4 ounces. So let's write our categories first.
I like money on top, so I'm going to do money over ounces. And it gives me a rate of 90 cents for 4 ounces. I need to find the unit rate, which would be over 1. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 4, which gives me 0.225.
Now, since we're dealing with money, it's really important to remember that money always has 2 decimal places. But I don't really want to do anything with that yet until I know how much the other one is. And I'll explain that in a minute. So let's go ahead and find the unit rate for the large thing of Pringles.
Okay, so again, I'm going to do dollars over ounces. And it tells me that it's $3.25 for 15 ounces. So how much is it for 1 ounce? I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 15. And that's going to give me 0.216.
Okay, now we need to look at our prices. And this one works out because they're not going to round to the same amount. And the reason for that is that when we round this one, we're going to get 23 cents. And we round this one, we'll get 22 cents. So that could have been a problem if they rounded to the same amount. But in this case, we're fine. So which one of those is the better deal?
Well, if I'm going to buy an ounce of potato chips and they are exactly the same, I would certainly rather pay 22 cents than 23 because it's a little bit less money.
So we want to pay less money for the same item. Let's look at our next example, and I want you to try this. So again, when we say pause your video and work it out as best you can, and then press play. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our next example. Which one is a better buy? A case of 24 cans for $11.75 or 6 cans for $2.75? So find the best buy. All right, pause your video.
The first thing we need to do is figure out what our categories are going to be. In this one, we're dealing with money and cans. Well, my first choice has $11.75 as the price for 24 cans. I need to figure out how much it costs for just 1 can so that I can compare them. So I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 24. When I do that, I get 0.489. And then for my pack of 6, I'm still dealing with money over cans. It costs $2.75 for 6 cans. And I need to know how much for 1 can. Well, I'm going to divide by 6 on the top and the bottom, which will leave me at 0.458. Well, if I round those, because we're dealing with money, the case of 24 is going to be 49 cents per can versus 46 cents per can. Which one's a better deal, Mr. McCord?
Well, I would always like to pay less money for the same amount. So in this case, we should go with the 6 cans for $2.75.
Okay.
one last problem, and then we're done with you. All right, so Jason and Steven are going on vacation. Jason's car traveled 252 miles on 9 gallons of gas, and Steven's car uses 8 gallons of gas on a trip of 240 miles. Now, our question for you is whose car gets better gas mileage? And keep in mind that when we talk about gas mileage, we're talking in terms of miles per gallon. So there's the order that you need to write your rate in. Pause your video and see if you can't do this on your own.
Okay, well, just like you said before, the first thing we need to do is categories, and we're talking about miles per gallon. That would be miles over gallons. I'm going to label mine. This is going to be Jason's, and we'll do Steven over here so that I know which one's which. Jason's car, it says, went 252 miles on 9 gallons, and Steven's car went 240 miles on 8 gallons. The only way I can compare these two things is if I figure out how far did each one go on just 1 gallon of gas. So for Jason, I need to divide both the top and the bottom by 9 because that's my bottom number. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with 28. Steven's a little bit different. I divide by the 8, which leaves me with 30 over 1.
Now, guys, make sure that you know what actually makes a better deal for this one. So before, when we talked about money, we wanted less money per item. But when you talk about your car, do you want to go further or do you want to go less on 1 gallon of gas?
Well, gas is expensive. I want to go as far as I can for just 1 gallon of gas. So I think I want the bigger number for the miles if it's going to be on 1 gallon of gas.
Absolutely. So in this case, Steven's car is the better deal because he can travel 30 miles per gallon. His car gets 30 miles per gallon.
That should be a good review for you for unit rates and Best Buy. We'll talk to you guys later.